everyone is well. We're still on these African conversations, and I am joined by my dear sister Ifa Modupwe. How you doing today, sis?
Great. How are you this morning?
I am great. I feel really good. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was quiet. It's quarantine, except for the little D Nice homeschool party they had on Instagram. I did watch
Ah,
that.
right on. Did you enjoy it? I heard a lot of good things about it. So did
Yeah,
you?
I
I
was
think D. I
good.
think the D stands for that he looks damn nice. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
D nice. I said that back there like, ooh, he
I was
fine.
also surprised at how good he did.
Good. He
It
done
was
did
good
some
to hear
stuff
some of
right.
that music that we don't always,
Right on.
play or hear. So that was nice.
Yeah, I think that D stands for he looked damn nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
He
always thought he
got
was
it.
really good looking.
He's
So
definitely got it.
yeah, he still got it. Take care of yourself. Be nice. We feel you out there. How did you feel watching that? Because that's like stuff from when you were young. Like when I was young. Like how did you feel?
Yeah.
That's like 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It was perfect, like timing, because it's right about the time when you start feeling some kind of way about being in the house every day, and social distancing when you single is different.
That's so true. That's so true,
You know
sis.
what I'm saying? And so it was just cool to have something to like have a little house party, just enjoy a little bit of leisure time with some really, really good music. Like, yeah, that was the music from when I used to be running the streets. And
Right on.
it was nice, nostalgic.
Right on.
Hmm.
So, did he play any cut where you was like, that was my jam? Anything like that?
Um, oh, so many of them. I still listen to a lot of old music, so I can't put my finger on just one song, but and it seemed like every song he played was like, oh, I haven't heard that in so long. Oh,
Hmm.
oh, I love that song. Stuff you didn't even remember you knew the words to. It's just,
Wow. That's what's up.
yeah.
Well, today, I know we left off last time, we were going down on seven African powers. You had explained that there are 401 Orishas, because usually most people don't even know that. Some of us just know about the seven African powers. And you explained, I love your disclaimer that you put out. You say, hey, this is what I've been taught, this is what I know. Um, but you pretty much explained that those were the ones that came over with us in that journey through the slave trade. And then we kind of went through some of them. And then the two that we did not get to was Shango and Oshun. And then we wanted to talk a little bit more about Babaluaye in these 30 minutes. So um, can you just tell us a little bit as we just get started um, the importance of those seven African powers? How do we get?
We got down to those seven from really, a lot of the information that we have about African traditional spirituality or have had historically has been from like Cuba, Brazil, um, and the Lucumi and Santeria traditions. And so those are the orishas that are highly observed in those traditions. There are others. And of course, there are people who their orisha doesn't fall within within those seven African powers, and so they bring the wisdom of those traditions and those because a lot of it is regional within Nigeria. Like it's very regional because you'll go to a certain area and they have a patron orisha. Just like in Cuba, you'll find little cults and sects with a patron saint, or yeah, I don't know what's going on. I need a cup of coffee, and they will be just primarily focused on that one orisha, like the Shango Baptist in Trinidad.
Right on, right on.
Mm-hmm.
So since you just brought up Shango, right? You just brought up
Mm-hmm.
Shango. Tell me a little bit about Shango, because I know Shango is also very big in Cuba. They say all Cuban men have a little bit of Shango. I used to hear that a lot when I was in Cuba. So tell us a little bit about Shango.
Yeah. I love Shango. Shango is king. They so frequently said when I was first learning about Orisha, because there were some of the people that were in my Egbe that were heavily influenced by Shango. Obukoso, the king does not die. So the thing is, we talked a little bit about Shango enlightening and the instant enlightenment. Like the lightning also represents wisdom coming in instant enlightenment from heaven to earth. So at times when you are confused about something, it breaks through all the confusion and just gives you that instant illumination that you need. Also, Shango is known as a warrior, a very powerful warrior. With a lot of mystical powers. I'm trying to edge away from magic because it gets confusing for people when you start talking about magic. But the medicine that Shango has, and also some of it shared with Oya, is very powerful medicine. So there's really not, Shango will come to your aid and support you in battle when you have an enemy or you're up against something.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so how do you, what does the offering look like to Shango? What is his colors, or, how do we see him?
I have my Shango bracelet on. It's red and white that I wear all the time. That doesn't come off. I have a lot of aleke and bracelets and stuff, but that one doesn't come off. So one adimu or offering that we used to give Shango when I first started studying Orisha was 6 bananas hung on the side of your door with a red ribbon and covered in palm oil.
All right. Is there any particular things that you see that you know that it's him? Like, with Oshun, it would be like the rivers or lakes, or is there anything in particular with him that you see that's Shango, or that's,
So outside of the lightning, it would be a double-headed axe. You see those a lot of times. You see those, the drummers have them, and anyone who's influenced or parented that's their Orisha parent, Shango, they or have that initiation, they will have those in their house. So just have them for decoration. They're very popular. Okay. Yeah, but that's a symbol of Shango.
Okay, what about Oshun? Because we didn't get a chance to touch on her a little bit. What about Oshun?
So, Oshun, we talked a little bit about Oshun, but Oshun is that, there's so much there. So, Oshun is a diviner, a queen. She represents also the sweetness in life and that energy as it pertains to all things having to do with really entertainment and just the celebrations that we have in life. Anytime there's a celebration, you always see you feel that energy is there. Also, Oshun is a warrior, a defender of women. And not in a superficial way at all. Oshun is that woman that lets things continue to be in motion. Like men have grand plans and they sometimes will run roughshod over the women, and the things that are important to women, those values that are specifically feminine, and or traditionally feminine, I should say, and that will give. That's a place where Oshun steps in. A lot of times, I notice in my spiritual walk. Oh goodness gracious. Okay. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry.
You good?
It in my spiritual walk, Oshun has come to support me at times when I felt like I was being discriminated against based on the fact that I was a woman, or slighted in some way, or maybe taken advantage of because of being put in a position where you want to nurture either other women, people, or just in general, but that sense of your womanhood being taken advantage of, which sometimes I noticed either physically a child of Oshun will come to my aid, or even through divination, Oshun steps up to say, I'm the one that's going to fight for her. And so it actually was my first Orisha that I went to the river to give honey. That was the first ritual that I really did as a student. And I think for a lot of people, Oshun is the first Orisha that they begin to form a relationship with. So that, because a lot of times we do lack that sweetness in our lives. Right. Because we have to become, one thing about women, African women in this country, is that we have to become so many things that carry dominant masculine energy. We have to navigate through a lot of spaces where we have to find the power in our femininity in order to stand in it. And if no one has, if you don't have a model for that, like, you know, your mother wasn't that type of person, or the women in your family were not, you didn't have that instilled in you at an early age, then that could be challenging. But spiritual relationships often supersede physical ones. So even though it's not to say that one thing can take the place of the other, but it is to say that there's power there. So we can activate it. There's hope for us, even in the situations that we find ourselves as African people, African Americans specifically, because there are a lot of challenges that are not just external, they're internal challenges. So it's one thing to put in a position where you're being slighted because you're a Black woman, but it's another thing for you to navigate that from a space of being empowered. In other words, knowing your inherent divinity and power and beauty, which is a spiritual inside job. That's a different kind of function than just being victorious over the circumstance. Circumstances change all the time, and we can do work to manipulate circumstances. That's not the issue. The primary thing is, where's our head at? You know, when we're doing ritual, when we're doing prayers, when we are getting divination, when we are looking for solutions to our problem, where's our head at? First, we should understand that everything is a function of our destiny. And so when we approach it from that standpoint, then a lot of times what we see in the physical will just dissolve, because we found a new place to be within ourselves. We've evolved in some way that was critical to the fulfillment of our destiny.
Right on. Okay, let's look at Babalu Aye. So on Saturday, a few people wanted to know more about Babalu Aye. And can you talk a little bit, give us more information about who is Babalu Aye?
have a little bit more information.
Okay.
So Babaluaye, basically, and this is real basic, but Babaluaye, it translates to Father of the Earth. And so, in a lot of the stories about Babaluaye, there's the reference to great power. So, known commonly, Babaluaye is the god of smallpox and infectious diseases. So you'll see a lot of references to leprosy, smallpox, and things. So, disease in the sense that you can't keep physical resources either. So it has to do not just with your body, but also with your finances and your state of being. That everything in the earth, Babaluaye has a hand in. And so there's some unique things about ritual for Babaluaye. I really didn't find in my notes anything that could be done without the supervision of a priest or the shrine. Like every time I've had to feed Babaluaye, there was a shrine available for me to do that. And that's just, not just, but also a place where we go to meet that Orisha or that energy and feed. That's basically what a shrine is. And so it's an object that holds that agreement. Like, this is where I come to feed you. This is where it's a concentrated place of that power. But also in the earth, you can feed in the earth. And so I only have notes of one Adamu that I've ever given Babaluaye, and that was that 15-bean soup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get it in the grocery store. It's just a bunch of different beans in the soup. But the thing about feeding Babaluaye is that, which is why I say you may want to get some assistance or supervision. Babaluaye does not share food with people or other Orisha. That's it. So there's great trepidation around the rituals done for Babaluaye. People take a lot of care and time, and because the energy is very, very strong and potent, and so, yeah, that's, there's even a ritual that I've never seen it done. I've seen a lot of things in person and a lot of things in video, but I've never seen when Babaluaye takes a wife and they bring out a corpse and resurrect it. So some people be like, oh, that doesn't happen. But a lot of things happen.
I get you. What is a shrine? I heard you say that shrine. A lot of people think wondering, what is a shrine?
A shrine is, it could be a lot of things, but primarily it's an emblem for a particular deity, energy, or Orisha, and they vary from being pots to a lot of people have seen the Eshu heads. They are a lot of those in North America. I've never gotten an Eshu with the face from anyone on the continent, but I know there are still people that make them. And different roads of Eshu have different looks as well for the shrines for them. But just as a general description, a shrine is a place that is infused with that power, a concentration of that power, and that deity, and that's where you go to meet, So that's for prayer, propitiation, and veneration, and just any rituals. Yeah.
What is the difference between a shrine and an altar?
Well, altar is like a pedestal. it's a place that's elevated usually, and it's a place where you would set a shrine, or create a shrine. So people use them interchangeably, which you can, because the altar is just, an elevated sacred space. Is basically what it is.
This is so what is the difference between, say, Santeria, Shango the Baptist, Candomblé, and Ifa, like all the other systems, and then Ifa? What is the difference?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of differences in terms of the taboos that they observe. Some of them are regional, cults or sects, and some revolve around one particular Orisha, like the Shango Baptist. The Shango is the center of their worship. And then in terms of like Orumalaism, or Ifa as we refer to it here, to me that represents more of the genesis of all these other traditions. Like, there's no one priest that knows everything. Priests have specialties. Some priests are community priests. In other words, they will take clients and students outside. Some are better teachers than others. Some are just initiated to deal with their families or whatever. But in the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of Africans were brought to this side of the world that had information and expertise. And a lot of these traditions were designed around the people and what they knew, who came here. And they didn't have access to what would be the genesis or nucleus of the tradition, which is in Yoruba land. So yeah, there are, and I don't know all the differences for every single one, you know what I mean? But you can kind of look at it from that standpoint. And I encourage people to research their own ancestry so that they're clear about where they came from. Especially if you're trying to connect to African spirituality as a way to reconnect to your ancestors. You will, no matter what tradition you're in. Everyone observes ancestor veneration and worship, but at the same time, the way in which things are structured may be different and more compatible with who you are, because it is in alignment with your own ancestry from a DNA perspective. But also find resonance, with your teacher. If something doesn't feel right, chances are, in the anxiety of that, you're going to lose some of your higher brain function and not be able to learn as well as you could if you were in a situation that was more comfortable to you.
How important, before we get to the wrapping up, because I'll need you to give us a book in case we can look up, but before we get to your book, how important is your ancestry to when you're doing this kind of worship?
Well, I found it to be very important. Because a lot of what happens with you spiritually has to do with your ancestry. If you are, there's so many of us that have some source of suffering that's not outside of ourselves. That's just something that we carry it feels like it came into the world with us. And we have that because of maybe an experience that one of our ancestors had. There's the relationship between you and your ancestors is one where they are in support of you, but you also need to support them in a sense. Like, it's not simple to explain, although it probably should be. But when you think about your family relationships and the way that you want to form reciprocity, right? We know that in our bloodlines, we've experienced things that have not let go of us. In other words, we can look back just in the generations that we're aware of and see how something has tumbled through each generation and kind of stained us in a way. And so we refer to those things like generational curses or whatever, but some of the work that we can do within ancestor worship or Ego will relieve us of that. We'll begin to clean out, you might be the point at which it comes to an end. That might be part of what you agreed to before you got here, that you would be the person who does the work in order to get rid of that. And sometimes it's not just as simple as doing an abo or a ritual, taking some baths, getting some soap and some medicine. Sometimes it also includes putting light on the thing, having some conversations. And so we can begin to look at our ancestors in a way that the communication, just having a space for that listening, because the way they speak to us is through imposition of thought. So when, turn left, when normally turn right, I always use that as an example because it's something super simple, but a lot of people know that they've avoided accidents just by having them, oh, that was a coincidence. Well, not really. So, that is where we should focus a lot of our attention, because sometimes even we can find agreement with an Orisha or Ifa in order to move forward with something. And in other words, an Orisha will say, yeah, I'll help you with that. But it's not necessarily in alignment with what there is for you to do. Like, a lot of times we push for something that we want to see happen. And it's a desire out of our smallness. It's not even anything,
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And we have a lot of like petty conflicts that we want to resolve through spiritual work, and we want to hire so-and-so to do witchcraft on this person or sweeten up this person or not. And some of that may be necessary for greater good, but a lot of it is just foolishness. You know what I mean? Right. And a lot of it is what runs people away. It's the same kind of thing where we've taken our consciousness from being churchgoers or whatever, and we've taken that same consciousness and tried to practice African spirituality, but you have to make a shift. You're not going to be able to stay in that same lane where everything is about you and you're going to be super messy and all of that. And that's something that we get to work on every day. It's a part of building our character, in the observance of good character, which is the primary tenet of Ifa. We have to let go of a lot of our smallness, and where we would want to buck up and have straight conflict with somebody just off top because we know we right, sometimes that's not the way to go about it. Right. If you really look at it. And so if you sit down and approach divination from that perspective, you'll be able to use every challenge to evolve rather than just constantly doing work.
Absolute last thing for today. What is divination? Because you said that a few times. So what is that?
That's when you consult the oracle. So there's a lot of forms of divination. There's the Erndillenboom, it's the 16 cowries, Albia Bata, the cola nuts, the 4-loaf cola nuts. We use that. Some people use 8 calories. Some people use, there's every spiritual system has its own form of divination, and that's basically to get information from the other side, whether you're consulting the ancestors, a specific Orisha or Ifa, which, as far as I found, is the most complete oracle system. Even Ifa has the Ifa and the Ifa Abiba, so you have 2 ways of, primary ways. There's a Poile, and just, that is, I think there's a misconception that people think is fortune telling. And they're like, oh, I don't want to know my future and all stuff, but it's not fortune telling. It's not wrapped up in your personality and your smallness. This is about your destiny. And even though you can ask questions, and people can get a little out. I remember in my youth being a little petty in the question asking, but that doesn't really serve you in the long run. Should be thoughtful about it, and we get caught at the crossroads a lot of times. We don't know what to do. You know what I mean? You may have 2 different, very different choices, like in regard to things that are very important, like where you work. You spend the majority of your day at work. So it's important that you are working in a way that will be forwarding for you, right? Choosing a mate. And there are divination ceremonies that happen, when a child is born, when a person dies. There are a lot of things that are worthy of consultation. Like I will say, it's a good thing for most people if you're not like looking for somebody to read your palm. And there are palm readers, so if that's what you want, you should probably go that direction. This is going to be different, especially as it pertains to Ifa. But all spiritual systems have a mystical system. Christianity has different mystical systems. I know my great-grandfather used Bible verses and herbs to heal, and there's a bunch of stories about the different ways that he divined. Some people said bones, some people said sticks, but it may have just been that he just grabbed what was handy and he was just that bad. I don't know, because I never met him, but I know that's in my lineage. And so there's, when you go to South Africa, they have diviners. Every tradition has diviners. Even in the casting of lots is a divination that they mention in the Bible. Yeah. So,
well, Sister Alba Jerry Scott says she heard it said that Ifa is like your GPS system.
Yes, that's perfect. That's a perfect description.
Yeah. And then Brother Marvin, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to forget your comment, but he also wrote a good comment about millions of Americans tuned into I Love Lucy, and most of them probably didn't realize that Ricky Ricardo's signature song was a tribute to the Afro-Cuban god Babalu, written by Cuban composer. This is like Margarita Lecono. I don't want to mess people's name up, please forgive me. Is also about Babalu Aye, one of the 7 main gods of Afro-Cuban religion, Santeria. It was first recorded by Cuban vocalist, this looked like Miguelito Valdez in 1941, and among fans of more traditional Latin music, Valdez was the real Mr. Babalu. So thank you for that, brother. I'm sorry, I forgot your comment up there.
I will go look at Facebook and read it.
Okay, yeah, because it's actually pretty cool. So I do remember Ricky Ricardo, because we used to watch a lot of I Love Lucy, and definitely remember him doing Babalu Aye with his band at the club.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely remember that song. But I also remember somebody telling me about that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. So sis, what book are you gonna tell us that'd be good for people to read in case folks want to read a book about this?
I tell you what I'll do. I'll post some books in the comments.
All right. So think about that every time we talk, even though it's supposed to be 30 minutes. I want to leave a book that people, that case they just want to read about it. Now people are
if
home.
you just want to read, like, I still love Flash of the Spirit. I know it is Flash of the Spirit. If you could find it, Flash of the Spirit gives you some good background information. It's got some good photos in it, so you can lay eyes on different implements and things like that. Yeah.
So Flash of the Spirit.
Yeah.
This is a book.
Don't go too deep off into the ritual aspect of things because some things are.
So is this a Flash of Spirit, African and Afro-American art and philosophy?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure because I looked it up. Sorry, I just want to make sure I got the right book.
No. Yeah.
Information, I want to make sure it's right, and it is on Amazon, y'all, for about $14.
Okay.
And that's maybe they have a used one, but I'm gonna share this book with y'all.
Oh, and there's another book. What is the name of that book? If I Will Save This Dying World. I think that's what it's called. But it's by Wande Abimbola.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe hold on.
And he probably has a new one out too. But yeah, I think that's one of his older books. A lot of the books I have are old. I don't have many of the new hot books that's out there.
No, I just think as we share this information, we should leave people with some books. Whether they're starting out with Louise Satish's Jambalaya. See, I think all books will eventually lead you to the books you need to have. You know what I mean? Like everything's like stepping stones to get you to where I think if you start off giving somebody potent medicine and they may not be used to it, it can really kind of make you go crazy. Cause then you be on some other shit. But if you don't take the small steps, like it's like feeding a baby a steak. When you know the baby don't have no teeth and its system is not designed to even digest the steak, to probably choke on it or something. But you start off with that blended up baby food, because I have a great nephew, so his parents make all his food, and I'm just he eats quinoa, but they blend it up. So that's why I'm saying that. Like what books that it could be like, okay, I'm getting it.
Mm-hmm. If you can find a short catechism for Ifa children.
Okay, a short catechism. I have to find that book.
The Bible House name is Abiyaku Fagbemro, Fagbenro. It's it was never really in print in the States, but you can probably find it on like Scribed.
Okay.
In some of their like documents.
Okay. So be thinking about when we talk tomorrow, because we're supposed to be doing 30 minutes. I keep saying that. Think about the books. Like you may want to text me some books so that way tomorrow I could kind of research them. Like, so I could have them to put in the, in there, and then maybe show a copy of the book. Because I could do that with the graphics on this end. So this is what the book may look like, and this is the author, or, I'm just into feeding people. I'm just really not into secretive shit, and I think that if you have the information, you must share it. Because what if your ass go out of here? Then how we gonna get it? So we don't think about that. And I think the reason why Christianity is so successful and the three monotheistic religions are so successful because they don't make shit a secret. They make it so handy. That's why they have billions of followers everywhere. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, but they don't do secretive shit. Like you could go to church and not ever join the church and still get the message. And so that's all I'm trying to do is like give enough information where people would then start to go and get it on their own. Because I
do want to give people some basis of understanding as much as we can. As much as we can come together and do that. And that means that even if you're listening and you have some information to share,
Yes, please.
please do share it. Absolutely, resources and everything. Even there, I know there's some discussions and chat groups and stuff on Facebook where people share, because the difference between Christianity and Islam and the way that you learn African spirituality is this is an oral tradition.
Right on, you gotta talk about
it. Yeah, the majority of the information that you get will not be in a book.
Right on.
The gems that you get will not be in a book. And there is a responsibility of the people that are giving out information to not hand the AK-47 to a 5-year-old.
That's what I was trying to say. That's what I was trying to say. That's why I said the baby with the
we
steak.
We don't want to be secretive to the extent that people feel like we got something to hide. But at the same time, like, we observe our woe because we don't give people information that they're not ready for, like you said, baby food for beginners. And so, I mean, it's a patient process, and it's a different kind of process. And of course, you get the best information from the oldest, most experienced, well-trained priests. You do. Sometimes they tell you stuff and be like, don't tell nobody that.
Right on.
Because, if you ever have the opportunity to sit with someone who's been trained since they were a child, Mauluo, I was initiated at Ogunda Meiji Temple in Ibadan. And it was so overwhelming. Like, I was super young, but to be around that many Babalaos of all ages, from like small children to elders, with all that information, like, you don't even know what to ask. You just have to sit there and listen and try to take notes when you can. But a lot of times you just be walking somewhere doing a task and they just unload like some gems on you. So I'm trying to remember as much as I can to share with people, because I think it's important that we have some other views too. Like, everybody should be sharing, so that because it may be your perspective that really sheds light on somebody's situation for them. And so we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Thank you, sis.
Thank you. And Mama, this is my queen mother out of Philly, Mambo, says, Finding the Path of the Orisha, written by Tubi Miloro Correll, is another good book. Thank you, Ian. She the bomb too, so tune into her shows too. As I like listening to her too. I like listening to knowledge. I love when you said this is an oral tradition, and but we just have to figure out a way to talk to each other. I think that another reason why I'm doing it in this format is that I've been in places where people be throwing out words and they take for granted that all of us know what that means. And that's how people get left out. It's like going to school and the person's supposed to be your teacher, but you don't understand nothing they just taught you. That means you're not a good teacher. That's the honest to God truth. That's why I said, do you understand what I'm saying? If I say something you don't get, tell me, and I'll back it up and break it down a little bit more. That's why I do that. We should know basic words. We should know what alafia means. We should know what it means when you say Ori or the shrine, or we should know what those things mean. That's also how you demystify lies.
Yes.
Like,
and that's important, because it's that sometimes people pull a veil over things that don't require a veil. Just so that they can cloud your eyes enough so you'll be codependent.
Oh, now wait a minute. I'm not a fan of that. I ain't got no fan in here today.
And so we'll have that conversation.
Thank you, Queen. I'm going to see you later on. I'm going to come bring you something. So practicing our social distancing. I went to the store yesterday. Girl, they got the tape on the floor where it's social distancing, like 6 feet from the next person in line. And you know, some black folks like, oh shit, I didn't even see that line. You know, we they had a glass up on the thing. They installed glasses, child, when you talk to the person at the cash register. And it's like, I felt like I was at the check cashing place in North Philly something. But anyway, that took me way back. But I'll see you tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow on live, y'all. This is every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. come, bring your knowledge, your question, your wisdom, your understanding, and let's talk
Yes.
about this awesome tradition so that we can better ourselves. So I'll see you tomorrow, sis.